Good morning and welcome to Lucton School's Virtual Open Day. We're here with our house parents. So we have Mr. and Mrs. Red Rogers, and you've been with us for a year, is that right?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Just over a year, actually. About 18 months now, I think.
Gosh, time flies, doesn't it? Okay, so we're going to ask the Red Rogers some questions about life at Lucton boarding, which have been emailed in by parents and also things that we know we regularly get asked when people come for tours. So, so first things first, could you let us know what's the setup of the boarding houses? So we've got two boarding houses, Croft House and the cottage.
Okay, so we've got the cottage for younger students. So they tend to be prep school students up to year 8, a mixture of boys and girls in cottage, and they are in shared rooms of usually around about 3 or 4 students. And the cottage is a really homely feel, perfect for younger boarders. It's like one big sleepover. We actually love working there. When we're up there on duty, it's lots of fun because it really does feel like one big sleepover. It's a really bright, modern, and it feels very much like a family home. It feels very much like a house.
Yeah.
And the students have a brilliant time there with their house parent, and the grads that we have working in school help there as well in the evenings with prep and so on. And then we've got Croft House, where the students move, where they, from usually around about year 8 or 9, right up until 6th form. And there's a slightly different feel in Croft House. It's much bigger, and students tend to have their own room, or sometimes we do have some shared rooms that we can offer as well. Some people like to share their rooms, but it tends to be individual rooms, and it's a bigger house, and the students are slightly more independent.
Yeah. So one of the other questions we get asked a lot, I'm sure you already know because of the students we've got in, they're very keen to know what are our policies around technology, mobile phones, and for the parents, they want to know when they can contact their children.
Yeah. So with technology, obviously you're allowed to bring whatever technology you wish to bring with you. We do like to know what you're bringing with us, so we have got a record of everything that is in the house. The year 9s and 10s are then required to hand their mobile phones in during the evening, half an hour before bed.
And the little ones in Croft House.
And the little ones in Croft House give their phones in. But in the big house, the year 9s and 10s will give their phones in half an hour before lights out. So just to give them the opportunity to get a good night's sleep, so they're not playing on their phones all day. Their phones are then kept in the boarding house office throughout the school day, and then they can collect them back at 5 o'clock. Now, obviously, we know there is issues with the international boarders want to contact their parents at hours that aren't ideal over here. So they can go to the office, we can give them their phone when they need it, if they do want to call home, whether that be in the morning, whether that be later at night. So they can use their phone whenever they need to.
Yeah, so nothing more flexible.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that the parents ask about actually is the students want to know if they can play games, and the parents want to know how are we supervising and not letting them play all the time.
In terms of games, yeah. So in terms of games, obviously we've got the common rooms are set up in the house, so they are able to use the common room areas to play games if they want. We do supervise them at bedtime then. So as I said, the year 9s and 10s have to be handing in their phones and any other technology. So after bedtime, they wouldn't be allowed to play those games.
Yeah.
With the Croft House setup, we've actually got 2 common rooms in, and often the students ask if they can connect their laptops, or we've got, PlayStations or Nintendos or whatever. Now, clearly, some of the games that they want to play have age certificates on. And so we do have a rule in the house that any games that are played in the common room areas, or indeed any films in the common areas in our lovely cinema room appropriate, and anything over a certificate of 15 allowed to be put on, unless it was by the older students that have asked, and we've got those kind of guidelines in place.
Perfect. Okay. One of the other things that parents are quite keen to know about is what activities will happen in the evenings, and also what activities will happen at the weekends.
Obviously, the evenings and the weekends are quite different. So in the evenings, we're quite structured. So the school day would finish at 5 o'clock. Students are allowed back into the house from about 5+5 onwards. They would then go for roll call and evening meal at 5:30. And that takes us up to really about 6:15. They've got a little bit of free time then until prep, which is at 6:30, and that goes right the way through until 8 o'clock. So during the weekend then, after 8 o'clock, they've got their own free time. Now, they will often go over to the sports hall, they'll play basketball. In the house, we've got pool table, we've got table tennis. So there's plenty of activities to do. They can use all the resources of the school.
Sometimes the swimming pool is open as well.
So we can lay all on that for them, and then see, as the year groups go up, they've got their structured bedtimes when they have to be back in the house then. The year 9s would need to be back in by 9 o'clock, and then it goes up each year group on a half-an-hour time slot. But yeah, they've got free time in the evenings. When it comes to weekends, we always try and put on a regular trip every
it's
Saturday.
Really busy.
So we organise quite some good trips. So we've done go-karting, we've done paintballing, we go to indoor climbing centres, we've done horse riding,
cinema trips,
safari park.
Yeah.
So there's lots going on at the weekend.
We try and make sure that each weekend we don't kind of repeat trips if we can help it. So we try and make sure that each weekend there's a trip, and each weekend it's something different. So over the course of the term, there's kind of something to suit everybody, whether you just want to go into town shopping for something nice to eat, or to the cinema, or something much more active, where you're firing paintballs at each other. So we try and keep everybody happy, and we're usually shattered at the end of it, aren't we?
That's fantastic. So one of the things that parents are concerned about as well is if their children are quite often coming from overseas, or maybe haven't boarded before, how does the boarding house help them integrate, and where can they go to for help?
Okay, lots of things are put in place for new boarders, because obviously we have new boarders not just in September, but each term we tend to have incoming new boarders.
Yeah, we keep you busy.
From this country and from all over the world. So the first thing to know is that the house is a really friendly house. Even though students have their own individual rooms in the bigger Croft house, the corridors, there's still only about 8 people on each corridor, and they are grouped by year. Yeah. So those people around them on their corridor will tend to be students that are often in the same classes, or even in the same tutor group. So it's an ideal way to make friends. At the start of each term, we tend to do some games, get to know you exercises, and we will give those students tours around school, treasure hunts, all of those kinds of things, so they can find their way around, because that's the key thing really to feeling like you're at home, isn't it? I think, being able to find your way around places. Each room will have a welcome pack in with timetables and what you need to know, what to do when the bells ring, what they mean, all of those things. And of course, then there's the people that they can ask. Obviously, are the students that have been here and done it all before. That's who we ask, isn't it? But also, they can ask us, of course. Yeah. There's graduate students that work in the boarding house that they are also able to ask. Other teachers that work during the week supervising prep. Lulu, our gorgeous matron, who's been here forever and knows everything.
Looks after me.
Yeah, absolutely, and she looks after me and my children too. So lots and lots of people to ask. But I think that the key thing to know is that both the boarding houses are like family homes, huge family homes with lots and lots of children, but we're very informal. It's not like school in the boarding house. It really is like a home. And even when staff aren't on duty, we have our doors propped open, and we're there for whatever you want, whether it's just a cup of tea and a chat or something more serious. So lots of people around.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the facilities in the boarding house, like what's on offer as part of the house, and what sort of things or access do children have to different parts of the house?
Yeah, so in terms of sleeping areas, there are 8 corridors for that's where all the bedrooms are. Then outside of that, then we've got 3 main common rooms. One of those we use as a cinema room, so it's got a big cinema screen. So we often put films on in there, and you can use it for Netflix as well. We then have a games room, and that's, as I said before, that's got a pool table and a table tennis table. And then we have a kitchen area as well. So we do regular trips to the local supermarket, so boarders can stock up on any sort of potential items. The older ones then can do a little bit of cooking if they wish. The younger ones can just have some snacks in the common room.
But we also use the kitchen area and what we call the cafe, which is attached to it, for other things. So we do open mic nights, for example, where each corridor has to do a little entry of their own, as well as individualized entries. The cinema room becomes a Friday night cinema for our boarders. So last year, for example, we showed every Marvel film in the order that you're meant to watch them. But we also show things like Disney films, Frozen, and sing-along films. So, you know, our spaces are really flexible. It can be just you with a blanket watching some rubbish on the TV, or it can become a fantastic new cinema, or, you know, an open mic cafe bar, depending on the things that we put on each week.
That's so much fun. So I think last question, which is probably one of the more serious ones, is so parents are keen to know if there is a medical problem, you know, who will be looking after their students and what provision have we got?
So obviously we live here with the students full time. We do have a sick bay area. There's 2 separate rooms within sick bay. During the day, so we've got matron is on hand with her own room. All the medication that's needed is in there. During the evenings, then if there's an issue, obviously we're all first aid trained as well. We're always on site, we're always available, and we've got that sick bay provision should they need to go into sick bay.
And obviously, if it's more serious, then local doctors. Usually our boarders are registered with the local surgery here. So if there's something more serious and they need to see a doctor, obviously either Lulu as matron or ourselves would drop them down to the local surgery or take them to the nearest hospital if it was an x-ray or whatever was needed. We're on hand for that.
Perfect. Well, thank you for taking the time to answer some questions for the parents who are looking at Lucton, and I hope you have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you very much.
You do too. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. Bye-bye.